Hello, what's up guys? This is Jouni Juurila from Floorball Made Simple, and today we present individual passing readiness practices for the players and then team practices that coaches can utilize. If you're a player and you want to skip right away to the players part where the individual practices are, jump in to 20 minutes part of this video. If you're a coach, watch through the video. Let's go. And yet again, a little sellout, but hey, get your teammates and colleagues on board with us. I'm not going to talk about this for that long because I have talked about this previously, but hey, more we can get players, coaches, and clubs watching these videos on their own spare time and finding those small improvement points for themselves. They will start to work on improving on floorball between the practices and between the games, because those times in between training sessions and games are the most important ones. So get your teammates and colleagues to subscribe us, and thank you for every subscriber so far. So first, to the team practices that you can use to improve your players' passing readiness and that positioning where the ball is positioned when you're carrying the ball in order to be ready to pass. And you need to combine basic drills, semi-open drills, rondos, learning games, and open games. So you can focus on passing readiness ability throughout using every single kind of practice method. Basic drills and semi-open drills need to be tailor-made to simulate the desired situations and actions on the field. By this I mean that those really bulky ones, those very general drills that do not relate to the game situation, those are not good, quite frankly. You need to tailor those drills that you're using so they mimic the sort of situation you want to see in the field and demonstrate that as well as possible. Describe and showcase to the players what kind of ball handling you expect from them, or how do you expect them to open themselves up, open the position to be ready for the pass. Use the whole pitch of the field and involve almost everyone with the ball at all moments. It is essential to teach individuals the skills how to stay a threat for passing while they're carrying the ball or handling the ball in a certain way with any side of the blade. And it is essential to mimic those movement directions and movement patterns that match that requirement of the desired game situation. So you want to be able to modelize these ways of acting on the field throughout your practice. And by the way, some coaches say that drills or even semi-closed or semi-open drills shouldn't be used ever. That everything should be learned by small-sided games and games. I wholeheartedly disagree, because in my opinion, you need to cover the basics. You need to have the basic knowledge. If I, for example, would start on learning something new, to speak French, for example, I cannot speak a word of French yet. But if somebody would tell me right now to jump in to full conversations and sentences, even that I don't know any word of that, it would be plain impossible. So I think that if the players are learning something new in floorball, they should start from drills that relate to the game situation and then progress to the learning games and utilize those skills. And the first one, this is organized chaos. Like I said in the earliest videos where we were talking about youth coaching, that it looks like an organized chaos, and this might look a little confusing, but I draw this in a way to showcase that you can get over 40 kids active in the field at the same time if you just design the practices properly. So let's begin by the corners. In the corners we have 2 versus 2 games, two games at the same time in the corners, and open 2 versus 2 where the players attempt to open themselves up and facing the chest direction towards the goal, so they are ready to pass at every moment. So we can get goalies involved in this way as well. The more important thing here is that we have this very basic 3-player passing drill where the player is in the middle of the 3-player line. So there are 3 players on that passing drill. 2 are on the width sides of the pitch and 1 is in the center. The player in the center needs to turn with the ball or stick handle the ball, do floor sorrow, whatever you desire to teach them. But they need to turn with the ball, handling the ball with a certain part of the blade and keep them a passing threat throughout the motion that they are able to pass at any moment. And when they decide to pass to a teammate, they run without the ball to the teammate's side and the teammate carries the ball to the center and then turns in a similar fashion. Very plain and simple. Then there's a second version of organized chaos and you can get many players active with the ball as well in this way. Let's begin again by the middle of the pitch. So you have 2 goals in each side of the center and you have 2 sort of linings where the players are doing their ball position movement. In each of those goals, in front of those or near those, you have a 1 deep receiving player. If we look at the black team, the first player carries the ball forward, then carries the ball for like 5 to 6 meters sideways, and then carries the ball sideways into another direction to the width, and then carries the ball back to the starting point. From there, the player starts to sprint with the ball towards the goal and chooses whether he or she scores by themselves or does he or she play a pass to that D player. If the D player receives the pass, they need to pass it back to the player and the player shoots. Once the player has either driven to the goal or played the pass and then made a shot, they will go to the player to the position where the D player is, and the D player will go to the line where the ball carriers are taking off. So this way you will have a semi-open drill that player can in the end decide whether I shoot or pass. And then if we look at the, let's say, left hand side bottom corner, we have 3 of these triangles formed on the field. So there are 3 players passing in this drill. There is 1 cone near the corner, 1 almost in the front of the goal, and 1 in that side pocket over there. Ball is in the corner and the player in the corner is the player that will always drive to the center and then choose whether he or she passes to the player in front of the goal or to that side pocket width player. So this drill demonstrates how the player is able to carry to the center and then find a pass to each width side of the pitch. If the player decides to drive to the center and pass to his or her side pocket, then the player runs to that player's place and the player that received the pass drives with the ball to the beginning part, and after it the player that went to be the first player in the corner drives again and then chooses to pass to either of those 3 players. So that is also an open point where the player can make the decisions. And this is very good on mimicking that driving to the center and finding a pass to either side of the width. And then version 3 of that, organizing a training session where the whole pitch is utilized. Let's begin by the center. So that is, I call a T drill. So player needs to draw a letter of T while carrying the ball. So the player begins by driving forward with the ball, then moves sideways for a bit, few meters, then travels back to the center and then to the other width. Then back to center, then carrying it backwards. And after it, open decision whether to drive to the goal or pass to that same deep player that passes back to the goal scoring area and then shooting. And after the rep, the player goes deep and deep player goes to be the last on the carrying line. So by this way that the player needs to move horizontally a bit with the ball and then backwards with the ball, because that is very important as well, that the player needs to be able to drag the ball backwards and still maintain that passing readiness. And in the other side of the pitch, we have a more wider scale drill where you can train the ability of the players to play those longer passes to the width directions. It begins from the corner as well, like the previous one, but now there are two players in that corner. So we will make this drill flow more fastly. The first one carries the ball to the center and chooses a longer pass either to the opposite side width or to that game side pocket. So two options where to pass. After passing, wherever you pass, the player goes to the line that he or she passed to, and the player that receives the pass drives with the ball to the beginning line. And meanwhile, after the player that has passed has moved to that new positioning, the second one in the corner starts to drive and then do the pass. So we will get this drill flowing even that the previous one that received the ball is still moving with the ball to the corner. So this flows a little faster. And this is a 3 versus 1 version of the exactly same drill, and it can be done in the both ends of the pitch. To the center, I did not draw anything for this version. You can use anything that gets two goalies active in the middle, but you have 4 players in this version as well in those width passing drills, but now there is one defender in the middle. Player carries from the corner and attempts to pass the ball into each side of the width department, and if the pressing player, the defender, gets the ball, then directly they switch places. The one that was able to take the ball away goes to be the last on the corner line, where another player will drive to the center, and the one that lost the ball will become a defender. And this is a progression of the previous one, so this is a 3 versus 2 situation. So 2 pressing players right there, they can both either press the player that carries the ball to the middle, or one can press and one can intercept the passes, whatever you like, but you can mold and change the difficulty by instructing those defensive players. But you carry the ball to the center and then find an open pass to any of those width players, and if you lose the ball, you become a defender, and the one that got the ball away becomes a ball carrier. This is an awesome exercise, and you can get the whole squad active in this way. You have 6 players playing in each side of the pitch in 2 gold free-flowing 3 versus 3 situations, and then the rest of the players go to the shift bench, and you can shift on the fly normally or then by a whistle. But there is only one restriction, and it focuses on the defending team. Defending team must come to press high on the pitch with 2 players. By pressing high with those 2 players, you are forcing the player with the ball that they have to move sideways and maintain that passing readiness. But the restriction is that the lowest of the defending team cannot go over that central line. Attacking team, or the one that is in the build-up opening the game, can position the players in a totally free manner. So there is no restriction to them, but as they know that there can be only 2 players pressing, they might want to come all 3 to support lower on the pitch. Once the team loses the ball, their 2 highest players go to press in a similar fashion as the previous team did, and 1 player needs to stay under that middle line. So either team is attacking, there only can be 2 players pressing and 1 needs to remain lower on the field. So it is a positional 3 versus 2. So this is a traditional 3 versus 2 ball control rondo. So there is no goal scoring involved in this version. So you should organize something that involves goal scoring in other free spaces of the pitch. So goalies don't get fed up by waiting. So you make 2 squares out of those practice cones to the field, and you have 2 different colored teams in there. 3 players are in that red team, and they are trying to keep the ball. 2 pressing players or defensive players in the middle, and they try to intercept the ball. Once the player loses the ball, the one that got the ball away becomes an attacker. And that one that lost the ball becomes a defender. And the game goes on swiftly right away, even though the players are changing their colors of their training shirts. And so still get the ball going. Don't let them to prepare themselves. Get the ball going. And the most important thing in here is that this does not happen in static motion. Like some rondos where you are sort of nailed from your feet to the floor and you stand still. No, not those. You are driving with the ball towards the central line and try to pass from there. If the press catches up to you, then you need to buy that time and space for yourself by moving sideways, moving backwards, and try to maintain that passing readiness at all times. And you can play this by counting the number of passes, consecutive passes you are able to play, or anything to make a little competition out of this. 40 to 60 second shifts, then coach blows the whistle and players change their roles. And here's another really cool version where you can focus on the level of how is the lowest player on the field able to maintain that passing readiness, and of course the other players as well, but the lowest player in this version will be an extra player that comes to the play. So it is a freely flowing 3 versus 3 with a central line like in previous ones, but you have in your own part of the pitch corners extra player that has a different colored shirt on. So if your team progresses through that middle line to the opponent's side of the pitch, you get 1 extra player that comes from the corner or outside the playing space, sideboard, comes to the play and plays as the lowest player in the field. So it is a momentary 4 versus 3 situation. And the lowest player that comes as extra, they can score, but they cannot go over that midline. So they keep the bottom there, and it is easy to control the ball and create situations through that. The defending team try to press the lowest player also. So there will be open gaps because there's only like 2 players defending on their own end and 1 is pressing. So somebody will be free for that attacking team. Try to maintain that passing readiness and find the free player, and this is a really good exercise on that. If the team loses the ball, they can still try to forecheck it back. If they get the ball above the central line, back to them, they can maintain attacking and that extra player stays on their side. If the opposing team takes the ball and is able to progress over the middle line, the previous team that was on the ball loses the extra player, and the one that did go over the central line gets their extra player from the other corner to the game. So it changes up that which team plays with 4 and which team plays with 3. And yet again, an awesome practice how you can create that little overload situation and then pass around and maintain that passing readiness. Now the extra player, because this is also a 3 versus 3 plus 1 extra player, that is not a bottom extra player, that is now a deep extra player, which means that the extra player is positioned in the opposing team's end. The extra player can only move horizontally around the goal and behind the goal line horizontally, but cannot come with a counter movement away from there. In this version, the extra player cannot score. So that is only for passing purposes, the extra player. No other restrictions in this version. Your team tries to get through that three-player press, and they can go by only those 3 players to score if there is free space. If there is not free space and the extra player is open, of course, you should pass to that player and then move without the ball to support that player. So every time your team gets the ball, they have an extra player in the deep areas, and it is wise to utilize that. If you instruct your defenders to hit on the full pressure to the player on the ball, good advice for the player on the ball is keep your chest direction at all moments towards opposing team's goal. Control the ball with each side of your blade, but still maintain that passing readiness and pick up those passing lanes as they appear. And then individual drills for the players. And few instructions on you when you are doing these drills, because you can have an effect on how fast you learn, on how you train individually. First advice, keep it simple. Get very simple and fast repetitions in your drills. Whatever you use, don't use gazillion passes on that. Couple of passes, simple touches with the ball and quick releases. You can do all of these drills that I'm going to present to you totally solo in your yard or in a sports hall by yourself. Or you can do these with your teammates. If you have teammates accessible to you that can come to train with you, for example, to an empty sports hall, please do so. Improvise on the stick handling in each of these, because you want to mimic some sort of actions that I'm going to present to you, but improvise. Do other versions of stick handling as well, so you are able to improve the way from which positions and which positionings of the ball you are able to be passing ready. Try to mimic that stick handling that you are able to use in a game, so try to get the image of what performances you can do in a game and mimic those. Do everything from motion, so the skill transfers to the field. By this I mean that if you are doing these drills from a passive motion or almost standing still, or if you are, for example, going shooting in your yard and you're shooting while you are straight-legged right over there and in a bad playing position and in a static movement, and you shoot in there, it is really hard to transfer that skill to the games, because in these games you are required to do everything from motion. So try to do all the solo training from motion. And the speed is an important factor as well. Try to match the speed and pace on how you move in motion and do these all skill abilities in a way that it fits to those games. I'll first describe how you can do this version or this drill in a sports hall with 2 teammates. As you can see, there are 3 practice cones that are positioned in a way that one is near the goal and 2 are in the opposite sides of the width direction, and you have 2 teammates that have both filled one of those cones, so one cone is empty. You start off from the ball or with the ball positioned in a way like in this picture, so you are driving from the sideboard towards the center line and trying to maintain that passing readiness throughout the motion. Meanwhile, you are carrying to the center, your teammates will run to each of those free cones and they are looking for a pass. You carry for as long as possible and then pass to a teammate into a good body positioning in that cone. So teammates can roam around and choose whatever cone they want. And if you want to do a harder version of this, after carrying to the center, just take the touch and back up with the ball a little bit. So you need to move backwards for a bit and then pass to a teammate. If you don't have any teammates training with you, you can just place 3 water bottles like this and then drive to center and try to hit each of those water bottles with your pass. This version is also made primarily with your teammate, and I'll explain this at first how you can do it with a teammate in a sports hall. So you start off from a positioning that fits to that picture and you are facing the sideboard. You will play a hard pass to the sideboard from where the pass will bounce back into a harder positioning to you. So it will not come back directly to the forehand side. You try to get it in as bad positioning as possible. The key thing here is, once the ball bounces back to you, you try to take the touch with the harder side and harder positioning and shift it in a fast manner to your forehand side. Then drive a little bit forward to the goal, and while you are driving towards the goal, your teammate that has positioned themselves to the opposite side with chooses either of two options. Either sprinting to the center or sprinting to the back post. And the player that is passing needs to pick up the pass and scan where the teammate was going. If you are doing this in a yard, you can place some sort of wooden plank or anything where the ball bounces back to you and do this same exact drill, for example, in your yard with your mate. If you don't have any teammate training with you, don't worry. You can place some obstacle or some item to the opposite side with where you are trying to aim your pass to. So that is a passing target to you, and you just do everything like in the beginning in the sports hall and then pass to that passing target. And this drill is also something you can make with a teammate or then solo. First, let's go through how you can do this in a sports hall with your teammate. So you have placed two items. They can be water bottles, practice cones, whatever, some small items that are approximately 6 meters, 7 meters apart from each other. You are standing in middle of those. You start by carrying the ball to each of those sides. You can decide. If you go to the left, you carry the ball in a way that the ball goes around the cone. Then you carry sideways to the other cone and get the ball around that as well. Then you return back and maintain that passing readiness. Meanwhile, your teammate is calling for the pass to each width side of the pitch. So you need to recognize and scan where the teammate went and then pass to that direction. Teammate passes back to you and then another rep of that. If you're doing this solo on the hall, place yet again some passing targets, some small items. It can be a football or anything. You place two of those into those same positions where your teammate would have went, and then you pass to that direction, a precise pass. And you can do this on your yard with that same idea. Okay guys, that was it for the video today. And if somebody watched the full video, kudos to you. Kudos to you. If you're a coach, feel free to utilize any of these practices, example practices to your own practices, or if you're a player, try this out. If this will feel good, get more of your teammates to try this out and train these in your own spare time. And hey, get your mates into this channel if you like this video, so even more people will start to pick up on these tips and try these on their own spare time. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and follow us on socials, and don't hesitate to ask for any tips or influences from me on my socials. Thank you so much. Bye.